I'm glad to see you. Thank you
Hi,
everyone for
Michelle.
coming.
Hi, Jill. Trying to see if anyone I know.
Oh,
And Janet, Nancy. Hi, Nancy.
oh.
Amy. Wow, lots of people. Hi, Marie, Nancy, Joanna,
Hi,
Susie.
hi, Marlene.
Hi.
I'm going to mute myself because my dogs keep barking.
Yeah, I'll mute myself too.
Ah,
All right, well, this is an awesome turnout so far. Thank you everyone for jumping on here. I know this is last minute and everyone has busy lives, and I'm really, really grateful that you're here. I'm excited to hear all of your voices tonight. I'll wait a few minutes, maybe after it turns to 7, just because we will be doing some procedural things. So people have been wondering about the voting for tonight because it was kind of mentioned in the Zoom on Sunday. So I'll just kind of tell you a little bit about my intention with this meeting. I have no intention at all to overthrow the conference on Saturday or anything like that. I just felt impressed to host a space where everybody's voices
mm,
could be heard, everyone could share their concerns. And so I thought we could just have a Zoom meeting.
mm.
So I don't have any votes like to propose or anything like that. But it's also, I don't have the authority to tell you we can't vote tonight. Most women who have reached out to me have requested that this be a discussion, a meeting, not a women's conference. So that means probably no one really wants to vote on anything tonight. When we go through the beginning of the meeting, whoever is conducting they'll ask these questions like, do you want to consider this a conference or a meeting? Do you want to have the opportunity to vote tonight? And that's up to you guys to decide. I don't want to dictate that. So, um, the first few minutes of this meeting, looks like it's 7 now. For the first few minutes, we're just gonna, I would love to give you all the opportunity to decide how you want this meeting to go and what your mission is here, and we can then raise our hands and come to agreement in that. So I don't know if that makes any sense. I'll be quiet and see if anyone has any questions, and then we can wait a few seconds more and start those procedural things if that sounds good. I'm not a good speaker. I'm sorry.
Allie, you're doing great. I just wanted to say that I would like to go ahead with voting on somebody to conduct the meeting. And I would like to propose that Allie, just hoping that somebody else, if you feel so inclined, could second, or if somebody else would like to speak
Where
up.
did I lose my phone? I lost my phone. I'll second it. Oh,
Kathy, we hear you. You lost your phone, but we can
oh,
still hear you.
oh, good. Well, I second the motion.
Okay, so I guess then I forget all of my like procedural stuff. Do we all
So
just
just
raise our hands to vote?
say
Yeah, I mean,
it's been proposed that a motion's been made and seconded that Ally conduct. All those in favor? Any opposed?
so yeah, maybe if you want to, then you guys are sweet. You could raise your hand on your Zoom thing, or if anyone has someone else they would like to elect to conduct, you can send their name in the chat and we can raise our hands for them.
Does everybody know how to raise your hand? Because it
I
took me like 50 times of doing Zoom to figure out. It's under the react. There's a heart down at the bottom of your Zoom, and then it says react. If you click on that, then it lets you raise your hand.
Well, I think my hand is up and I don't want it up, but I move that nomination cease.
Oh,
I can't do it. I'm trying, but it gave me a thumbs up. There's a reaction and I don't see a hand.
Well, can't we just put her in by acclamation then?
What are you doing?
By acclamation, that means no vote. We want her to do it by acclamation.
Well, I'm looking at reactions and I'm trying to go. Right there. Where? Oh, did it come up? Reactions. It's like, how many times do I have to do it? Reactions. Where? Okay. Oh, did it work? I think it worked.
It did, Michelle. Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
And if anyone is having a hard time raising their hand, you can raise your physical hand too, or you can throw out anyone else's name in the chat box.
Oh, we made a motion.
I'm sorry, what are we raising our hands for again?
Okay, yeah, if anyone is coming in just now, we are just electing someone to conduct. So you can put someone's name in the chat box, or right now they're voting if they want me to conduct. And so if you want me to conduct, you can raise your hand, but I definitely don't have to.
We're counting hands, but there's 3 pages that we have to look at. So if you'll just leave your hands up for a few minutes and we'll start counting. Count this page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25, 10, 15, 20.
So I see that Amy would like to nominate Karen Strong. I think that, or Strib, I don't know, Stribg. I don't know if she meant to say Strong or she meant to say someone else.
Sorry, I'm typing on my phone. I meant to say Karen Strong.
I declined the nomination. I'm just here to observe and learn and listen. So I can decline, right?
We already counted that.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, though. That was kind of you, but I don't want to. So thanks.
I don't see any hands up on page 3.
We've got 30 votes, so I think you're doing it, Amy. Or Allie, I mean.
No. Okay, well, if everyone's okay with that, then I can move on to some of the other questions. So
everybody needs to lower their hands now.
Yeah, everyone can lower your hand. All right, so other things to talk about. Maybe it'd be better this time if we have everyone send your message to the chat, because this vote is kind of like a 2-answer question. So the next question to ask you all is, would you like this meeting conducted in accordance with the scriptural outline of common consent in the glossary of terms? And then if you are in favor of common consent, you can just send yes to the chat, or you can raise your hand. And then Janet and Midge, would you like to count the chat and I'll count the hands?
Okay. Sure.
Thanks. Perfect. So if you would like to conduct the meeting according to the scriptural outline of common consent, send a yes to the chat box. And if you would not like to, you're welcome to send a no. And if anyone has a better way of doing this, please suggest. I can use all the help.
There's moving too fast. Here. Okay. 1, 2, 4, 5.
Someone sent a yes to me privately, so I don't know if anyone else is going to see it.
I have an idea that may or may not work.
15.
If everybody knows how to, I mean, I know that you're trying to experiment. We're just trying to see how would you do something like this. And so the thought came to me, you can sometimes do the voice yeses and the nos. And well, I guess on some things that would be too hard to tell. So maybe that's a dumb idea. Never mind. I take that back. In my mind, I was thinking
23.
If you said yes, it might be really clear that a lot are saying it. And then, if you said no's, it might be very clear that it's just a few. I don't know if that's faster, but
I think the written.
But if it's a tie, if it's close, that's not going to make sense.
Yeah. Anyway, it was Leanie Phone that sent me a private message that said yes.
Okay.
Anne Marie sent
22.
a yes to me privately.
We have 23 votes that are yes so far.
Okay, I think I had either 13 or 14. So I think that's a majority out of 60. So that means we're in agreement on common consent. So the outline of common consent is basically everyone is able to present their concerns. Everyone's voice is equal to another's. And we already elected someone to conduct, so I'll just keep conducting. And then after I get through this kind of procedural portion, then everyone, you're just welcome to present all of your concerns. So next question is going to be, would you like to consider this gathering a town hall discussion type of meeting or a more formal women's conference? So this one, maybe just send your answer to the group chat. You can say M for meeting or WCF for conference or something like that. And I guess while you guys are sending your answers in, I should throw out there with a women's conference in the June 20th Revelation. I can pull this up really quick.
Okay, I'll tell you, you count them. Okay. Do a slash for each one. I'll tell you what it is. Okay.
So in the June 20th Revelation, it does say, let the women call a conference at a suitable. I'm going to mute you for just a sec, Janet. Okay, I'm just going to mute that really quick. Let the women call a conference at a suitable time and place convenient to allow interested women to attend. Have your wife, Stephanie Snuffer, conduct the conference deliberations and let any who want to speak present their concerns. Then there's a little more procedural stuff in the Revelation. And then it says, and if another dispute later arises from other women's councils, and there is a need, call another conference of the women and resolve the dispute by the voice of the women's conference as often as need arises. So just wanted to throw that out there because if you've interpreted the Revelation to mean Stephanie needs to conduct every women's conference, then I don't think that would be fitting to call this a conference because she's obviously not here to conduct. So something to consider.
I don't, can anyone hear me? This is Connie Waterman.
Hi, Connie.
Hello?
I hear you.
Hi. Okay, how do I put in M or WCF? I cannot find a way to do.
If you don't have a way, you're welcome to just say it out loud and I'll count you.
Okay. I just don't think we need to have a giant women's conference over this. I think a meeting would be great. So M for Connie.
If anybody wants to write it on the chat, you go to the bottom. First, you turn on chat, and then on the chat, it'll say meeting group chat. And then down below it, it's got a blinker, and you just put your message there. You just type it from your computer.
I don't.
Did that help? Am I muted? No. Meeting. Okay. Meeting one.
All right, meeting wins. Okay, so then this is a meeting. We're in agreement there. And then the next thing, would you like husbands to be invited to join their wives? Husbands, you guys get to decide if you want the men here or if you're giving them the boot. So if you want husbands allowed to come, send an H into the group chat. And if you don't want husbands to come, don't send anything.
How about who in the hell cares because my husband's not interested anyway.
Good point, Karen. Someone said my name. Does
yes.
Have a
hi,
question?
this is May.
Hi, May.
I was just wondering, with like random questions or random comments, are we just going to raise our hand or unmute ourselves?
14, 15.
You mean kind of later on in like the discussion portion?
Well, I just had a comment right now.
Oh
I didn't
yeah,
want to
let's hear your
interrupt.
comment.
Just going back to the other vote real quick about the comment you made about Stephanie conducting all the conferences. I think that June 20th revelation was very specific to what is going on right now. It actually seems quite restrictive for it to be a permanent thing where if we're going to call a conference to resolve a dispute, that Stephanie will always be conducting it. So I'm of the opinion that we are allowed to call a women's conference to resolve issues and have someone else conduct in the future.
Thanks for sharing, May. I agree with you on that one.
I do too. I can't figure out what the heck I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe I should just leave.
No. Just chill out. Connie, would you want to say something? It's okay.
Yeah, Connie, you can just unmute yourself. It's okay.
We like you here.
Yeah, don't leave us.
Connie, you're totally
I
fine.
look like a mess. Oh my gosh, the dinner was late tonight. I'm just a little out of sorts. Sorry.
Connie, you're being authentic. You're fine.
It's okay, Connie. We're glad you're here. It looks to me like husbands have won the vote. What do you guys think, Janet and Midge?
Yes, they have.
Okay, great. All right, let's see.
We must tell you, one person said they needed a husband assigned to them.
Work on it. We'll get you covered.
You're beautiful.
We're widows and we don't want a husband.
We've been widowed twice.
So you're sick of them?
No, it's painful to go through that.
Yeah.
Enough.
We've lost 2. That's enough. 2 each.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So between us, we have 4. We've lost four men. Good men.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, Janet and Midge. And I'm glad you're here with us. And that you live together. I think that's the best thing ever. So next vote is going to be, would you guys like the chat box to remain open? And then there's one more after this, and then we'll be so done with all the procedural stuff. I'm sorry, this takes a little bit. I just want to give everyone the opportunity.
Open. Let's open.
Yes. It's all.
Okay, that's pretty resounding. So let's say next question. Would you guys like to have a time window for each person to share their thought? Would you like each person to have 2, 3, or 5 minutes? Is there another amount of time you'd like to throw out there? And then once that 2, 3, 5 minute mark comes up, someone will give them a gentle reminder so that we can move on to the next person. I should give you a way to vote on that.
People are putting in 2 to 3 minutes.
2 to 3, perfect. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, great. Okay, then I'll say, I guess I'll just conduct that, and then if someone's hit.
How about Midge and I tell them if they get to 3 minutes, we'll say time.
Great, that would be perfect.
Their sentence, and they can finish their sentence.
Thank you. You guys are great help. I don't pay you enough for this. All right. Hey, I think those are all the procedural things. So thank you for bearing with me through all of that. Thank you for your voices. So now I think the meeting is just open. I know I'd thrown out there in the emails beforehand that we could do like a spokesperson type of meeting where different people could group up and elect someone, and they have a longer amount of time to talk in the beginning. Since this has kind of just been pulled together really quickly, I'm thinking we should just have everyone 2 to 3 minutes to say their piece, and we can just have a back and forth. And does it sound good to everybody that if someone hasn't spoken yet, we give them priority over people who have spoken before? You can shout out a yes out loud in the chat, raise your hand, any of that. Looks like we're getting some yeses in the chat. Okay. All right. Well, then the floor is yours. You are all welcome to share your thoughts, concerns about any of this. Oh, and Marie, thank you for reminding me. I'd asked Marie to say a prayer. So before anything, Marie is going to say a prayer for us.
Someone mute me again. I don't know how to mute myself. And I just spilled stuff all over myself.
Allie, do you have to do that? Is that Connie?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Connie. Did you guys, where do I go to mute myself again? I just made a massive mess here. I'm gonna have to call
Allie,
nursing.
Allie, you're host, but you can so you can mute or turn the host over to somebody else to kind of manage the administrative portions of the meeting in that way, so you don't have to be distracted. I can transfer if that's easier for you.
Sorry.
Hey, Allie, I can take over if you want me to do that.
Oh my gosh.
You need to unmute yourself, Allie.
This is exactly why I need your help. Thank you. Amy, I would love it if you could send the host privileges to Tammy Jo. Thanks.
Okay. Father in heaven, we're so grateful for this opportunity to be together. We're grateful for each other and for every soul that we get to come in contact with in this movement and within our fellowships and through meetings like these. We're grateful for all that we have as far as thy son and your gospel. We're so grateful to be able to be on this journey here on earth and to be able to learn and better ourselves and make an impact on people around us and our families. Father, please bless please bless during this meeting that we can have your spirit with us. Please bless us that we can look for ways that we can see within ourselves, maybe the things that we see in others, that we can look for ways to help each other and raise each other up. Father, all of us have made mistakes, and all of us have had times where we've seen things that we have fears that we have ourselves. Please help us to be aware of those and to pay attention to those feelings and our motivations. Father, we're so grateful for so many people here that are and in all the Zoom meetings and people that are caring and want to help each other. Please help us that we can cast a cloak of charity on one another and that we can do things that would bring thy spirit in abundance and help us in each of our journeys. We're so grateful for everything that we have, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Great prayer, Marie. All right, now anyone is welcome to speak. Time is yours.
So I have a question. I can't raise my hand because I'm just connected on the phone right now.
Go for it, Amy.
Can you hear? Okay. I was just wondering what concerns that the sisters had after getting the document from the conference organizers presenting their evidence. What questions or concerns do you still have after having read that, and then also considering what is on the council's website?
I'm just going to chime in since nobody else is saying anything. I kind of feel like I'm at a fast and testimony meeting, like that awkward silence. Then you feel the pressure and you go up and speak because nobody else would. But anyway,
Thanks
no,
for
I'm just
breaking
going to
that,
say,
Karen.
anyway, Amy, I just sent out an email just a little bit before, oh, maybe an hour before this started or whatever, because I've been thinking about that, when you're a jury, you get to deliberate. And I hadn't thought about this with this Zoom actually, but deliberating as a jury is really important. And it's something that, I know I don't really consider what we're doing. I don't like the government analogy, but since it's being presented as a trial and that there's, the defendant and the prosecutor, that sort of thing, then I thought, well, I guess the reality is that we're like the jury. And so I just realized that it's important for us to, I think we're afraid in a little ways. None of us wants to do anything wrong. I don't want to offend God. I don't want to offend any woman. I don't want to say something harsh or that sounds accusatory or whatever, but then I do have questions. And the reality is that we are being asked to weigh the evidence, to actually look at it. And so, it's too bad that at the end of all the evidence, after we hear Saturday, that we aren't able to then come together and talk about it, because I think that is what a jury would do. I don't think that's what a jury is do. That's what a jury is required to do. And so I don't really have anything to really say other than that I think that us maybe talking about what we're noticing or not, I think we're afraid to, because it feels like we're afraid that we're gossiping or whatever, but we are asked to weigh the evidence. It is our responsibility. And so we've got to analyze it. And I'm trying to analyze it like I would in a court of law. That's how I'm trying to think. How would I look at this if I was in a court of law? How would I be looking at this? What would a judge be telling me about motive? Could there be other motives? What's the credibility of the witness? What is, all of these sort of things. I have to think about it, and it's uncomfortable because we don't want to do it. And it's not lost on me that the very next day, Denver's going to be talking about Sermon on the Mount. And I'm trying to figure out, wow, this is quite the dilemma we're put in, to have to judge something. And then we're having a weekend of speaking about Sermon on the Mount. I don't have that figured out. I don't have figured out. So I'm looking forward to Sundays. But anyway, I just think it's important that we do discuss, if we can, in the next few days, what it is that we're seeing, and just try to measure our words, say it carefully, but then also say what you see, um, and somehow that's us practicing to be able to communicate without taking offense with each other. I'm not very good at it. I'm trying. I'm learning. But anyway, I'll be quiet now.
Thanks, Karen. I'm going to go over to Cami next. You are muted, Cami, just in case you don't know. Still not hearing Cami. Oh, there she is.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I usually don't do this on my phone, so I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay. I'm gonna make this as concise as I can, but since we were just asked to say what we're seeing, I spent basically all night reading through that document that we were sent yesterday. And to me, that really, really clarified that that the organizers of this conference are trying really, really hard to persuade, but that to me, they don't have what it takes to back that up. Like, they just don't have my vote. And so as I thought about that, I'm like, it's kind of tempting for me to be like, okay, well, now I've made up my mind. So what do I do? Because we have a very long conference ahead of us. and I want to be able to vote in the conference, which means I have to attend all of it. And I was kind of feeling a little resentful about that, but I thought, uh, there's so much that we can learn from this whole process. And part of it is about how do we, how do we do this? How do we have strong opinions? How and come together and voice those, all of that kind of stuff. But I think for me at least, part of this is now that I've in my heart that I've come to the decision for sure that this is harassment of the Women's Council. Okay, well, can I now I have to work on not being resentful toward the people who are doing it, so to speak. How can I have charity in my heart for people that I believe are in the wrong? What I mean, there's so much we can learn here about because let's say that the majority of people agree with me and the Women's Council is upheld, let's say. The women who called the council may feel ostracized, embarrassed or something like that. Or, there's going to be some kind of fallout. And, how do I handle that? How can I have compassion for people that made me read an inordinately large amount of stuff that I didn't like? That kind of thing. So I just feel like there's a lot that we can learn from all of this and that will
Finish
help
your
us.
thought, please.
Pardon?
Finish your thought, please. It's been 3
Oh,
minutes.
yes. Yeah, so I just think there's a lot we can learn from all of this. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cami. Okay, I think Kathy is next.
Yeah, it'll just be short. Oh, just a minute. I gotta shut my phone off. As I've had a bad feeling about the women's conference since it was announced. And as everything comes forward, it just seems so anti everything that we stand for. The process isn't there's not supposed to be like a trial and legal and courts and it just feels so wrong, and I just don't understand how this conference can even be called. I mean, what gives somebody the authority to put something together that is against everything that we do and we stand for? It just is just really hard to understand. It's just breaking my heart because the whole thing is just more or less tearing us apart, kind of. And it could be resolved so quickly if everybody just say, well, or even if we accuse and say, hey, it's not worth it. Let's fix it. It's okay. Whatever anybody wants, let's go in the majority and use our hearts and love each other and go and have a pizza or something. I don't know. It's just awful. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, let's go to Marie next. Or no, actually, I think it was Paula first.
Can you hear me okay?
I think so.
Allie? I think so. Can you hear? Okay, let me see if I can. Is that better? I'm having a hard time. Okay. Kathy, I really want to agree with you on what you were just saying. I have thought and prayed about all of this for all these weeks since it started, and what I have come to conclude in my own heart and mind is, to me, a conference, a women's conference, and the women's councils are something sacred, I feel. And it's an opportunity at the conference for the women to come together and reason and learn from whatever mistakes have been made, and we're not to, I don't feel we're supposed to be accusing and bringing evidence against former councils for anything. I have come to the conclude that we are not dealing with a conference. We are dealing with a courtroom and a trial. And we are the jury as women. We're to deliberate, and in our own hearts and minds, and what the evidence has been presented, we are pretty much, it's just a courtroom. And I consider that in quote unquote a legal sense. And when I think of a legal sense, I think of Babylon. And I feel that we're trying to do something more than Babylon. We're supposed to work towards Zion. And the term in the way the organizers are doing this seems I feel like they're keeping us in the celestial state instead of rising above. And sorry, I'm having a hard time putting my thoughts together, but this is like weighed on me so heavily because I know in the depth of my heart what these women have gone through, and I wasn't a part of the council, but I have felt it. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's of God. It doesn't feel of God. Anyway, these are just some of my thoughts and what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Paula. All right, we're gonna go to Marie next.
So just some thoughts that I've been having. I did read the Women's Council members' website, the things that they put on there and from their husbands and different things like that. And then I did read the PDF that was sent out today, that the council organizers or the conference organizers sent out. And I have a lot of compassion for them all. I there were some things that were mentioned in the PDF that was sent out this morning that were really difficult to read. And I think so my thoughts kind of go to what is the proper way to handle when there does need to be some sort of correction on anyone's part, and how much correction do we give each other versus, kind of karma and the correction that life gives us. I also really struggle. I have this problem. So for me, when you have kind of processes and structures and different things like that, that there are boundaries and there's ways that you can go about remedying, like if there's a problem that comes up, because there's definitely going to be problems that come up no matter if we all are, like they just happen as human beings when we interact with each other. And so I know, like, I feel like, and I'm just kind of throwing around some of these ideas. I'm not saying they're like from God or anything like that. Like, I'm just saying, like, I'd love to have a conversation where I feel like so many times we don't want to add anything. We don't want to add processes. We don't want to add rules, which I do agree with. And I think so much needs to be done at the fellowship level. But we are faced with a circumstance where the fellowship level has confronted all of us that are in varying fellowships all over. And there will be circumstances like this. And I'm just like, is this in my mind? I'm like, is this the best approach if something can be settled, you know, more intimately with the people involved versus getting everybody involved, which I think that they've tried to do, which I know that they said there's been hours of talking and different things like that. But I do have to say there were some things that, you know, that I did read this morning that it was heartbreaking to think, um, you know, many of you maybe know or don't know, my husband went through, he was a January 6er and he went through a trial with the federal government, which was very daunting. And
I'm sorry, finish your thought, please.
oh, yep. Anyway, just I do think that there is value and merit in trying to make sure that processes are being followed. I just don't know the best way to do it. I don't love the idea of, yeah, I don't know the best way to do it. I'd love to have a conversation on that, but that doesn't need to happen today. I'm just, yeah.
I think that's a great topic to bring up. Thank you, Marie. Okay, next is going to be Emmeline.
Don't want to, I mean, kind of changing the subject a little bit, but for anyone who might be interested, I just wanted to share that since the Women's Council, the women from the Women's Councils have also only just received the document from the conference organizer just last night. They are currently working tirelessly to get out or to make their defense available to the public. So that is coming, just so everyone knows.
Sorry, I'm conducting. I just zoned out for a minute. Okay, next is Shireen.
Hi,
Emmeline.
everybody. Because it doesn't matter if my background's blurred, but so I read through Jennifer's document and I just wanted to remind everybody, and that's what's difficult as a jury, right? Everything is so one-sided, but I'm one of the few people who is in the UK in November of 2023, and that was the series of events that basically led to the first council being convened. And reading through Jennifer's take on what happened in a place that she wasn't at and in a circumstance that she wasn't a part of, I just want to remind everybody that it's a very one-sided story. Like I'm really not trying to cause problems or stir the boat or do anything inappropriate. But I agree with Karen that if we're being asked to judge this matter, that for the most part, none of us were even involved in, and I maybe have a little bit more knowledge because I was in the UK for that whole trip with my parents. I just want to remind everybody of that. And so sometimes things can be presented in a way that's trying to elicit an emotional reaction, a sob story. This man doesn't have a lot of food. He doesn't have a place to sleep. But I just want to remind everybody that that was a personal choice of his to do that. It was not required or asked of him. And that the events that were recounted in the UK are not accurate in my mind and in the minds of others who are there. So take that with a grain of salt because obviously you're not me and I'm not anybody else. So I wanted to say that. And then I also wanted to say that Jennifer Willis texted me personally. I have the text still on my phone in January of 2024. So the UK meeting was in November 23, and in January of 24, she texted me and asked me specifically if I was on the first Women's Council, which I was not. And so I just want everyone to be aware that from the beginning, I hate to use the word witch hunt, but there was a little bit of a premeditated effort to figure out who was on that council and then leverage the people to, I don't know, to get information and then probably to influence council too. So Anyway, I hope that's not too much. Those are just my honest thoughts from somebody who was in the UK, who saw firsthand a lot of what happened and what made the first council happen. And then somebody who was also asked directly by Jennifer if I was on the council, because I think she's trying to get information. So that's it.
Thank you, Shireen. Next, we have Kylie, but before we go on, just wanted to ask if there are questions in the group chat. Do you guys want me to read those, or do you want to just read them yourselves? Kylie, you can go ahead and talk, and then if anyone wants to answer that, you can just send a yes or no in the chat.
Okay, cool. Hi. I just want to share my experience with this because it seems to be different than those that I am hearing. Rather than this process being super divisive and like driving wedges between me and other people, I have honestly, surprisingly, found myself connecting and growing closer to people who I have either historically had no interactions with or maybe not great interactions with, or that, to be completely transparent, that I have avoided interactions with on both like the Jennifer Kalisa side and on the Women's Council side, as well as just the general conference attendees side. So that's been a fun byproduct for me in engaging in this process. And I am proof positive that it is possible to have engaged in this in a way that has brought connection and collaboration and lots of good fruits.
Thank you, Kylie. All right, next we have May.
Actually, Allie, it's Shireen.
Oh,
Nope, sorry. Nope, I'm good. I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Here, I'll turn on my camera. I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents. I think as women, it's a strength, but also can be a weakness. I think sometimes we are afraid to call a spade and call it as we see it. And I think that at some point we're all allowed to take what we've heard and what we've read and come to a decision of what is good and what is bad. And I just want to encourage everyone, if you just to not be afraid to call it as you see. And after reading Jennifer's email yesterday, it was, I mean, all I could really do is just kind of laugh, because to realize that it was so premeditated for over a year and so thought out, to where she felt the need to teach us all a lesson by, taking everything that she said Lewis experienced and making the women on the 14 on the council experience that same thing, even, putting it out to the whole movement. All of the women have to go through this now. To me, that's not the spirit of love and forgiveness and kindness. To me, that's the spirit of contention and retaliation. Unfortunately, from my opinion, her conference has been, led by some women who have not been involved in the movement at all and do not know most of the women in the movement. They don't know our daily walk. They don't know how we communicate with each other. And like this meeting is going so far tonight, all I see is love and compassion and patience. And we all seem so grounded in the scriptures and our understanding of what God is asking us to do. And I, first of all, really appreciate that. I feel so much more connected to so many of you women, like Kylie was saying. But I also just want to encourage you that if you feel like from your prayer and from your study, the Lord has given you your answer, don't be afraid if it's divisive, because like Denver has said before, one person with the spirit of contention would be a dangerous neighbor to have in Zion.
Thank you, May. Next we have, whoa, I'm lost. I think next we have Karen. Tammy Jo, is that right?
It's Angie.
Okay, Angie, sorry. I'm not good at this.
Hi, y'all. I think the whole situation has been generally frustrating, and I think everybody's in agreement, or most people are in agreement at this point. I think the thing that rubbed me wrong to begin with was the governmental stance, which is harsh and which is, maybe just wants to like go off of logic, but logic without emotion ceases to have any sort of balance. We're not in any sort of wise space when we're one side or the other. This last paper that came out, I read through what they put out, but the tone itself makes it hard to even pay attention to the actual evidence that they're putting out there. It's pejorative, it's demeaning, it's accusatory. And it was frustrating because I'm sure that they've gotten that feedback from quite a bit of people so far. And it was frustrating to see that probably none of that was taken into consideration. And certainly that was still the same tone, the same vibe that was, put out in this last paper. I think something to consider is it looks to me like two women have ended up getting, several hundred people involved in talking. And ultimately, we're all going to choose to make it a really good thing. We've met new people. We've come together and trying to work out a problem. And we're going to bond and we're going to create, beautiful friendships out of hard times. That's what humans do. But also, we don't have to choose to be a part of this if it happens in the future. We don't actually have to say, half of these conversations to me, I'm like, why are we talking about it? Because it's almost like by talking about it, we're validating that this actually is a trial that we're putting these women on, which I just don't support at all. I fully support what the women on the council made. And even if that was in question, I would expect that the evidence that was put forward really sounded like it was actually trying to be helpful to our movement as a whole, as opposed to trying to vilify a group of women or one woman. There's just nothing that I hear from Kalisa and Jennifer's side that actually sounds like there's any concern for our group as a whole. It's extremely one-sided, and I don't have respect for it. I just don't have respect for how it's been conducted at all.
Thank you, Angie. I think Tammy Jo is next.
Hi, ladies. Just as I've been listening to comments and also reading some of the comments in the chat, as well as, this past few weeks have been daunting for so many, and I've observed the exchanges back and forth. What I'm coming to see is that there are a lot of feelings that haven't been validated, number one. And I think that there's a process that we're skipping here when we don't validate those feelings. That's not to say that I'm saying that anyone is right or wrong, but what I would like to propose is that underneath the feelings, whatever it is that you're experiencing is an unmet need. And I think that when we connect at the heart level, then we can actually start moving to a process to finding resolution. And so, a couple of things that I would just like to put out there. NVC, that nonviolent communication that Stephanie has brought up. Marshall Rosenberg is the one who developed it. I think that there are a lot of key elements that could help us to be able to identify what it is that we're feeling, needing, and then asking for what it is that, could possibly meet those needs. Outside of that, I know that there are other really good programs. I forget what Laura, I think it's the 4 agreements that she shared in the online group last Sunday, and another one that I'm currently in right now, Tim Fletcher's Lift program. Just some things to be able to like really take care of yourself and to find that that inner guide. Anyways, those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Tammy Jo. Those are some great resources. I think that we have, can you guys help me with this? Is this the right order? Kathy or Cami, Karen, Emmeline, Paula. Is that right?
That's
yeah?
correct.
Okay, then we're going to Kathy or next.
So I'm going to piggyback off what Tammy Jo just said. I'm in Tammy Jo's NVC group, and last Friday night we got together and we actually took this topic that we're talking about right now and ran it through NVC. But the first thing we did is we ran it through what I call the Babylonian 3-minute rule, where everyone tells us what we think. So we went around the room and everybody got 3 minutes with a timer and told to shut up when they were close, which absolutely drives me out of my mind, by the way. And and we heard what everybody said, etc. And if you all, I want you all to do an experiment with me. I'm sure everybody's got their phone. I want you to Google where the 3-minute rule came from, because it's a marketing pitch tool. It's so steeped in Babylon, it defies imagination, and it was never meant to resolve conflict, ever. But we use it thinking it's a tool that works, and it doesn't. Then we went around in our NVC group and went through how everybody was, what they observed, what they felt, and what they needed. And there were men in the group and women in the group, and each person said something so different of what they thought about everything, how they felt, and what they needed. But by the time, and no time, you just keep talking until you're done. By the time we were done, we felt so connected, and my heart was just full with connection for everybody. And then we got to ask the real simple question, which is, well, how do you think we should solve this problem? Because I understand your heart now, not your thoughts. I understand your feelings and your needs. And it was beyond beautiful. I'm going to share with you right now, since I've listened to you all, what I think you're feeling and what I think you're needing. Okay? Just from what I've heard. Feelings. You're hurt. You're tired. You're sad. You're frazzled. You're overwhelmed. You're stressed out. You're troubled. You're unnerved. You're upset. And I could go on and on and on. And here's what I think you're needing. You need trust. You need to be heard. You need community, honesty, authenticity, integrity. You need learning, respect, cooperation, and emotional safety, just to name a few. Now, if that resonates in your hearts, know that it's so important to say, well, what am I feeling and what am I needing? And when everybody gets to express that, regardless of what side you're on, my goodness, the things you can accomplish are amazing.
How do I get in this NVC group you're talking about? All right, next is going to be Cami. Thank you, Kathy.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Oh, now you're gone. Now you're muted again.
Okay. Now can you hear me? I had a couple of thoughts over the last few comments. One is I have felt as I went through the document yesterday, as well as the others that we've been given, I felt like there was a lot of irrelevant information added to the conversation. And I was partly just curious if other people are feeling that way too, like we're getting a lot of things that don't actually matter to the questions that are going to be posed to us. And then the other thing that, well, and along with that, I feel like in the future, one of the things that we could learn from this as future organizers is to really try and be more concise about what it is we're after, what, just everything, just be a lot more concise about it. And then the other thing that has been impressed on me multiple times is that one of the good things that can come out of this is we really do, as women, need to face the conversations and sort things out so that we don't have future problems like this. And I know there's a lot of resistance to things like rules and whatnot, but we're going to have to come up with a few. And I think that, I mean, God's kingdom has laws, and so I'm not saying we need tons of them. We don't need to get very particular, but I do think that we need to think through the processes and come up with a few. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Cami. Next, we go to Emmeline. Oh, actually, sorry, Emmeline. I forgot. We had made that decision. We were going to go to people who haven't spoken yet first. So we'll go to Mark and Carolyn Barlow. You are muted, Mark and Carolyn.
Sorry about that. So I kind of have a different perspective about this whole thing that I would really love to share. First off, I do want to say that I don't agree with how it's appeared is that there's been a lot of villainizing of one or both sides of this dispute. And I don't really feel like that the women's conference they're not out to get anybody. And I really believe with all my heart that they want to do what they believe is right. They're in it for the truth, just like this other, both sides are in it for the truth. And I think that what we could do is use this as an opportunity to come together, not just as on, picking sides, but we can really look at this as an opportunity to bring our dispute to the Lord and get his part so that all of us, are able to hear from him and unite our hearts together in this. And I've talked to both sides and been seeking to understand both sides and really doing a lot of homework on this. And I feel like that we really do have an opportunity here. And that's what I would really like to encourage everybody to do, is to think about bringing this dispute to the Lord to get his part on this.
Thank you. Next, we have Michelle.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback on that because just recently, God has been putting it into my heart that everything is an opportunity and that we can learn and grow from them. And it's been interesting because I haven't read everything, but someone did share Rachel Ball's thing that she sent, and Rachel is my daughter-in-law, and Rachel is on this Zoom meeting. And our experience with the sacrament was an opportunity for us to realize that people had different opportunity, different opinions. And it was an opportunity to bring it to the Lord together. And we didn't do that. And now we have an opportunity with a totally different circumstance to bring it to the Lord. And we are going to do that. And so it's so interesting to me because I think that this is an opportunity. I have felt overwhelmed because I have so many other things that are demanding me, my attention and all my resources. And I need to not be at this conference, but I also need connection. And so I'm so thankful that I was invited to this town hall meeting. And so it's so interesting to me that I feel very strongly that I need to not be at the conference, but I do need to be heard.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, we have Emmeline.
That's a cool thought, Michelle. So something I just wanted to bring up and see if anyone else was feeling this. One of my big concerns that I had while reading the document, the biggest concern that I had kind of showed up near the end, where she is still requesting evidence and transcripts. And something that rubbed me the wrong way about that is the fact that anyone is asking a women's council for evidence in the first place, when we all know that the evidence that is shared and discussed among a council is supposed to be kept confidential. And for any of us to ask for that evidence to be shared with us, even if we weren't involved in the council and had, we have no right to that evidence, to even ask for it sounds to me like a breach of that responsibility that we are entrusted as women to keep certain information confidential and keep it within the councils, and in that way protect these men who are in the council or who put it under trial. So I don't know if anyone else is feeling that way too. Another thing that is to piggyback off of, I think, what Cami was saying about a lot of the info in the paper not seeming to be relevant to the topic that's going to be at the conference about the Women's Council. It seems like there's a lot about Lewis in the paper, when this council is apparently, or this conference, sorry, is apparently not going to be about Lewis. It's supposed to be about the women's councils, yet she has shared a lot of information about Lewis to try to persuade people, to be on his side. And so I think that's a little disingenuous of the conference organizers to include that as well, when that's not going to be discussed at the conference. So I don't know if anybody else was feeling that way too.
Thank you, Emmeline. Next, Michelle, did you have another comment? Okay. Next we have May.
I just wanted to piggyback off of Angie's comment. I'm not saying this is what she was saying, but it sounds so. My personal belief is a person only has as much power over you as you give him or her, as much attention as you give her. And we're all adult, grown women with families. And I just want to throw it out there. I mean, this can be shot down, I don't care, but have we considered in a kind way going to the conference, or not going to the conference, but in some way communicating to Jennifer and Kalisa that the way they're conducting this isn't something we agree with, so it doesn't even make sense to participate in a vote. It sounds like most of us are against the idea of it being some sort of government, and the way that she is putting together the conference with this jury and all of these ideas she's throwing out. Just an idea that maybe there's some way to unanimously be like, we actually just disagree with this entirely. Come again with a different approach and we'll talk about it then, and we'll consider it then. Just an idea. It can be shot down. I don't care.
Thank you, May. All right, Emmeline, do you have another comment?
No, sorry, I keep forgetting to lower it.
You're fine. I do that too. Okay, then we're going to go to McKay next.
We still can't hear you, McKay. Do you want somebody else to go while you figure it out?
Okay, we'll go to Heidi first and then McKay after.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep, we got
Yes.
you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, this is a procedural question that I have felt concerned about. I feel like when I read the revelation about what women's conferences were about, that I got the impression that we were to present concerns. I didn't feel like it included the authorization to overturn a women's council. And I'm just wondering if anybody else feels the need to ask for a vote to even give the conference that authority instead of just assume it, which I think is what we're doing. We're making an assumption that the conference has the ability to overthrow a council instead of voting to see if we think that we want to actually give that authority to the conference. That's it.
Thank you, Heidi. Angie, are you responding to Heidi? Okay, I'll go to you first and then I'll go back to you, McKay.
Angie, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Was it Heidi that was just speaking? Yeah, I think that's where I'm in agreement is I can't be at the conference. I don't have any way to attend it. Again, is there a way to say we actually just don't uphold that you have any authority to actually do what you're saying that you're doing? And by all of us voting, on the one hand, we're making our voice known, and I want us to make our voice known. We have a responsibility to do that. But we can also choose what we choose to say with our voice. We can have it say yes, yay, or nay to what we support in this, or we can have it say, actually, we don't have it. We're not putting a dog in this fight. We don't think it should have been a fight to begin with. I don't know what that looks like at the meeting. I don't know if it's people just simply standing up and saying, we choose to no longer participate. We've heard you. We're choosing to no longer participate in this. And in so doing so, that just simply means that we're upholding the Women's Council's decision. I don't know how to go about it, but it just feels like they keep getting more and more pulpit time. And it feels like it's beating a dead horse to me. I'm sorry, I'm feeling a little bit like callous about it, but I'm just like, this is eating up so much precious time. And it's frustrating to me.
Okay, we'll go to McKay next. Thank you, Angie.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you now.
Sorry, I can only figure it out if I don't see you guys. So, okay. I am not sure my thoughts are gonna make a lot of sense, and it probably will come off like I'm pushing back on you all, and I don't actually feel that in my heart at all. I have really prayerfully cried to God over these issues and have a lot of investment and just a lot of love and empathy to all the people involved, but also to us figuring this out. So with that said, I echo a lot of things May and Heidi in particular have said, but I just real quick wanted to say that one thing as I was reading Stephanie's post and I was trying to make sense of what is God possibly teaching us that I'm not seeing? Is there something that I'm not seeing? And one thing that stood out to me that I'm not saying is necessarily a full thought, but I just wanted to share just in case it gets anyone any comfort or thinking out loud is the war in heaven kept coming up to my mind. And I told my mom this, the war in heaven, you know, essentially it sounds like is a council of the gods in heaven, and someone, one person can, and I want to preface this with saying I am not in any sense wanting to draw any parallel to Lucifer or to anything like that, to Jennifer and Kalisa, I think intentions are not clear to me necessarily, but I do feel a need to speak clearly as we've all shared. So with that said, the idea and the precept of that you can have one person have a thought that catches fire, even to just maybe a few, and it really can cause quite a bit of for lack of a better, a war in heaven, a conflict. And maybe that is exactly how it's supposed to be. Maybe this is the nature of all things and is the way it's always going to be. And part of the journey of becoming like God is trying to, like Stephanie's post said, breathe through and take a deep breath and figure out how to cope whilst acknowledging that it's not that we're gaslighting ourselves or that it's not real or that we don't need to still engage in the battle per se and stick with the conversation. That's certainly not what we did in the War in Heaven. We didn't just back down and say, okay, Lucifer, like, have your way, we disagree. But to maintain charity while doing so. And maybe that is part of what we are being tested on. Bigger picture is, how do we maintain learning about how to counsel with one another and maintain charity when maybe one person feels, or two people, or it could be any number. I mean, we experience it with guidance standards. This is not just, I don't mean to be attacking any one person here. It could be me next time, but the idea is the same of just, maybe this is the way. Maybe even though it feels so yucky and we all feel so like, maybe it is the way. And maybe that's where what Kylie and Stephanie are saying kind of means what we're saying. That's it. That's all.
Thank you, McKay. Next, I believe we go to, who do we have? Amy? Is it Amy?
So I just wanted to point out that we do have a situation where there is a women's council that was held and done in not the proper order. So the question on the table is whether or not the General Assembly of Women ought to be considering the validity of a women's council. I do think that that is on the table, and here's why. The first time that Louis had his certificate removed, Jennifer held a one-woman council and unilaterally took it away from him. Yeah. And that is out of order. And we should be considering that, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, she's done. Yeah.
Thanks, Amy. All right, next we're going to go to Kara.
Where's Kara?
While you get your microphone on, if anyone, let's see, McKay, I don't know if your hand is still up, but if you want me to call on you again, keep your hand up.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I have felt and thought so many of the same things that all of you are feeling and thinking. Well, the most recent comments, I have thought about the War in Heaven. I have thought about how it's ridiculous. I feel a little bit ridiculous to even be like giving so much of my time to this when I have a family and children. I've also felt that I don't feel morally right voting for something when I don't agree with what they have determined the meaning of the vote to be. You know, if we vote that this council was invalid, therefore his certificate is automatically handed back to him. Well, who says? Like, where? I mean, who says? But I want to echo a little bit of what McKay was saying, that I believe that if we want this issue to be put to rest, the way forward is to play the game that they're asking us to play, and to do it humbly, and to do it as peacefully as we can, to endure the suffering that we're all being asked to go through, to hear them out, to attend, to do our duty, and to vote. I mean, to vote our conscience as much as we possibly can in the situation that we've been boxed into. And I try to trust that if we go about that, the majority will vote that the council will be upheld and that the issue will be put to rest. And I know there's a chance that it won't, but I think it is far more likely that if we just don't vote at all or try to get another option on the table, like, hey, can we try to change the outcome or anything like that, that the issue will continue to persist. What I have to say.
Thank you, Kara. Next, we have Catherine.
First of all, may I preface I feel acute vulnerability at this time. I feel to mention some things just to let you know I'm in an arduous journey with grief, having lost my husband May 24th of 2024. The initial thought was to buy the tickets and come to this conference and fellowship with you all, especially with the women. Since Bob's death, I have felt so alone physically. And so I come and I become immersed into this. And I sincerely have read and attended, and three things that are just coming to mind from my personal experience. I struggle when I'm not allowed to govern myself and others being able to govern themselves. I struggle through my lifetime with choices of others inflicting upon my own, being strong-armed. I have resonated with those of you who have come to a personal awareness of where your hearts are. And that is what I have felt. Having the grief in my own life, I have seen grief and loss in your faces through your struggles. I can't imagine being on the councils. I can't imagine the struggle that you have had. Again, when I think of a beast, my husband would always say the head of the beast changes, but there's only one beast, the accuser with the capital A. And I recognize so much when we don't have our hearts right. And I am so grateful for all of you who have shared and been an example to me of charity. And I really believe when it's already been vocalized that this is larger than what this conference is being called for. It's how we personally respond. It's what's inside of us. And that's all I have to share. Thank you for letting me be vulnerable with you.
Thank you, Catherine. My heart is with you, and I'm sorry that this weekend isn't as high-spirited and fellowshipping as it could have been.
All of you, very helpful. Just hearing from you and reading those heart things. So thank you. Like-hearted. I like like-hearted people.
Thank you. Someone asked in the chat why we keep skipping Karen, and it's not because I don't like Karen. I promise. It's just that we're going to people who haven't spoken yet first. So next is Amanda, and then we'll come back to Cami and Karen.
Okay, this is a little bit of a topic change, and I don't know if I'll say it right. But as I've been listening to my fellowship talk, especially the men who have a limited view, maybe limited info about what's going on with these conference and council proceedings, so they're looking at it from the outside. They're bringing up concerns related to the idea that a women's dispute conference and majority vote, that if it's decided that the majority vote can overrule a women's council and that a majority vote can make movement-wide rulings, as was stated in one of the documents they set out. My fellowship people are talking about, they're concerned that that is making a broader statement that these majority vote women's conferences can make decisions like over fellowships, as if the fellowships are not autonomous and there's some kind of church religious structure that the women's conferences like preside over. And that's been interesting to hear, and I'm not sure I've heard about it like discussed in other places except in my fellowship. But it's like a genuine concern of lots of people in my fellowship. Like, what are these women's conference majority votes trying to do? Do they think that they're actually in charge of the fellowships when they're supposed to be autonomous to help prevent corruption?
Thank you so much for sharing, Amanda. That's a really, really great topic to delve into, I think. Okay, next we have Karen.
Does anybody want to respond to that? Because it wasn't what I was going to talk about, but I think that was a key. Amanda, were you on the first Zoom when we talked about government and stuff?
I was, yeah.
So what I took from, or what I felt was maybe happening, is that there's a lot of people who are trying to say what you're saying. They just didn't say it in the words that you're using. Let me put on my screen because, but that's in essence what a lot of us are trying to say is this is set up not to become institutionalized, not to become centralized, um, where we are to be taught correct principles and let them govern themselves. In fact, Denver's even very clearly said the beauty of being separate fellowships is if one fellowship goes off into apostasy, go ahead and go. It doesn't affect the rest, right? And so you have a valid point. I don't have an answer to it other than that I think is part of that first day's discussion. So does anybody else want to say anything before I say what I wanted to say? But anyway, I'll be quiet for a minute if somebody wants to say something. Do you want me to just keep going then with what I was going to say? Okay. I've loved, I just got to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed this. Like this is, I think there's been varying opinions, not maybe as many on a counter side of what most people are thinking on here, but it's still been really interesting to listen to everybody. And I do really appreciate, I think it was Kylie saying that she's had new relationships deepen and so forth from it. And I just feel like I'm glad to have met all of you and I feel the spirit from all of you and I'm glad to see the faces of those that I can see and I hope to see at the conference. But I was just going to say that in light of kind of maybe what McKay was saying, that's my daughter, for those of you that might not know, is, in the end, I think that despite all the reservations and the frustrations that I have, there's so many people that said things that I feel a lot of injustice. I don't like that one person can do this. I don't like it at all. But and I've ranted and raved to the Lord about it. And I think he's gonna tell me how I'm wrong in a minute. But I think McKay has a point that we've got to engage. I'm sure I didn't back down in the other. And I am going to stand for principle. And I was even talking to Stephanie. I don't know if Stephanie's on here or not. I was talking to her. I said, I am trying to find out from God, does he want me to be William Wallace or Mindy Meek turn the other cheek? And that's what I'm trying to find out. And I just, I think that's the struggle that all of us are feeling. And I think for myself, my fast, I'm still going a direction I wasn't going to go. So I guess I'm not supposed to say the other thing. But I was going to say for my fast, because I would say good friends with a lot of these women. So on both sides, I'm good friends with Kelisa and Jennifer, and I'm good friends with uh, the women on the council. I mean, there's a few that I don't know as well as the other, but I'm good friends with a lot of them, and this is cutting deep, and it's not. I don't like it at all. I don't like having to, like somebody said, I know I'm going to have to make a decision, and
Please finish your thought.
yeah. And I'm afraid of how do I mend a relationship with people that are going to know that I voted contrary to what them because I want a relationship with those people still. But that's a hard issue for me. So
Thank you, Karen. We have Cami next.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw a couple more thoughts on in with the autonomy of the fellowships versus the binding. And I'm starting to mull that over more and more as we go along, because I hear some people saying, well, we don't have to abide by X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I see that point. And then other people like, well, yeah, but Stephanie said binding. And I'm like, right, okay, and I see that point too. And so for me, that's kind of an interesting juxtaposition between, um, we don't have to do things. This isn't a force. We're not being forced to do things. On the other hand, we're trying to build a community, and communities have processes and ways of doing things and understandings. And we don't want to keep having women's councils pulled into these kinds of meetings because they're considered invalid by other groups. And so I thought, I'm not sure yet where I'm landing on this, but I do think it's really interesting and productive to think about, what does it mean to build a community? How are we doing this? Are we willing to even maybe abide by rules that we don't agree with? So that I do think this is productive for us to be engaging in this and talking about this. And I keep saying it because I know we have to. Well, I believe we have to at some point have a women's conference where we, work this out. I mean, we had one in November, and we kind of came to the conclusion, we didn't want to vote on very many things. We didn't accept very many things at the last women's conference, which was also the first one. And it was kind of all right, well, let's go home and think about this, and at some point we'll talk about it, which I kind of agreed with, because I also wanted to turn things over. But I feel like a lot of times we just kind of, it's disagreement's uncomfortable, and we kind of punt, instead of engaging. And so I think we've been forced to engage on this, and it's uncomfortable and unpleasant, and we don't like it, but it might be for our good to kind of have to grapple with these questions. So that's me.
Thank you, Cami. Those are great thoughts. Let's go to Marlene next.
Hi, Allie. Thank you for doing this. I just wanted to share a thought that I had, and I would love feedback from anybody who is here tonight, because I'm not saying that this is 100% correct, but at least it lets you know where my heart is. We are taught correct principles, and we govern ourselves. A women's conference should be called for guidance, not governance. Fellowships are the basic unit of our society next to the family. No one can tell an independent fellowship how to conduct their business and discipline. A women's conference can be called by any woman at any time. Any interested woman can attend, but any vote at any conference cannot be held inviolate, because it does not represent the entire congregation, unless the entire congregation of women are allowed to vote, either in person or attending remotely online. So although a women's conference is called, and some women are able to physically gather, these meetings should be used to hear all voices and calmly reach consensus that can then be taken back to the fellowships for consideration. A strong woman, or any cohorts, or any woman or women that are able to gather to discuss these issues, cannot and do not have the right to assert their authority over the rest of us. The Lord has been clear in his directions. We do not need more rules, laws, and overreach by any individual, particularly an individual who was not called to a women's council that has already seen all of the evidence available at the time and reached a unanimous decision. This is out of order. It will not bring us closer to Zion. Going forward, my hope is that we will build together a better way to solve these disputes. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. I think that Michelle's iPhone is next.
Yes, thank you so much. When this whole thing first started, I was confused. Like, I thought we weren't having another women's council, or a women's conference until November of this year. So why are we having one now? So there have been a lot of things as the time has gone by that I have thought about and tried to piece together and understand. And there's been ups and downs. Many things that people have shared today are things I've thought of or felt. But where I'm at with it now is I feel like heaven is taking notes on what is happening. We know Zion is in the near future and creating that and putting that all together. And I feel like this is perhaps we could say even maybe backfired in that the effect that this has had in calling this conference, I feel has drawn many of us together. I'll speak for myself. I've seen so many women on these calls that I've never seen before, heard from before. I didn't know they existed before this. And it has been so exciting to me to see so many women um, coming together, sharing their thoughts, working through what's going on, and coming to a positive place in the end. I think probably every one of us could say that through this process, we have grown in some kind of way from before it ever happened. So I'm looking at this as an exciting opportunity when I go into the vote on Saturday and into the meeting. And even with everything I'm reading, I decided I'm removing emotion from it. I'm simply going to look at the facts and to decide which way I'm going to go. And I'm looking at this as a fantastic opportunity to practice my own discernment and work with the Lord on where He would want this vote to go. So I'm choosing to look at this as an amazing, wonderful opportunity that's drawing us together and helping us each to learn to improve ourselves. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, it looks like there's no more hands up right now, so I would love to hear if anyone wants to take the conversation in a new direction, and also what time you guys are hoping to wrap by. So you can you can group chat, whatever time you're thinking, and if there's nothing else, we can end if there's no one else left.
I just want to say thank you, Allie, for putting this together. I really liked this. I liked hearing everyone's opinions. Something I might love to see in the future is maybe giving, like, keeping it more open. Instead of like raising hands, maybe just having everybody speaking, of their own volition. I know that can get really crazy with Zoom sometimes, but there were times where I felt like I really wanted to jump in and reply to somebody specifically right after they said it, but then it was kind of overshadowed by the next person talking and changing their opinion. So that's just a thought.
Thank you, Emmeline. Since you just said that, I see some hands coming up, so I'll get to you guys in just a quick second. But I did want to say I've appreciated this meeting so much. Thank you all for your thoughts, especially if you were a little nervous to share, if you feel like you're in the minority. Grateful everyone's in attendance, and I would definitely be willing to host another meeting like this if you would like a place to gather after this conference or in the future. If anyone ever feels like they need this kind of a forum, you can always email me and I would be happy to help. Oh, now, Annette, I think you're first.
Sorry about that. My name is Annette Jensen and I live in Ohio, and I just want to say hi to everybody. It's been really wonderful for me being in a very isolated place to read all the comments that's been going on online and to get to know personalities and people. It has given me such hope because I see the strength that you have, that the next generation coming up is going to arise and do the Lord's work. And when you get to be my age, you think, oh, it's so good to see that. On the other hand, I don't know if any of you have noticed, there's a couple of things that have bothered me. I think it has been a wonderful opportunity for us to hone our skills in going directly to the Lord and fine tuning our communication with Him and receiving answers. I get disheartened when we start talking about all these philosophies of man stuff. I know there's a lot of good tools that can be used to help us. At the same time, sometimes I want to just cut out the middleman and say, let's go directly to the Lord. Do you know what I'm saying? Another thing I noticed, I've tried to keep a little, to educate myself on both sides. And I think what I feel is that this experience, which has been so hard, can really teach us how to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more sure that we're doing common consent when we're dealing with our fellow men. Because I see that there's been some comments back and forth with some legitimate concerns. And then I did notice that recently Jennifer posted on her blog the parable about the king and how I'm sorry, I don't remember the title of it, but it's the parable that Denver gave, in which the king, it's kind of a test that he gave his kingdom. He wanted to see who could live at peace with each other, right? And she recently just posted that story on there as if to say, and I don't know what her motivation is, as if to say, I'm teaching you a lesson, I'm giving you an opportunity. And I really don't know her heart, but I just want to express thank you to all of you for the opportunity of getting to know you better. I think we'll work this out. We really will. But I am very disappointed that those of us who are far, far away, who cannot drop everything and come out west every time something happens, are not allowed to participate, because there's a lot of desires in our heart to be with you, to be included, and not everybody can be.
Please finish your thought.
Oh, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. All right, we have Kathy next.
So I'm Annette's little twin over here in Kentucky. So I know that outlying community thing. And I own a business. And I may be going to take this in slightly a different direction and maybe reiterate a little something that Cammie said. Because as I've listened to a lot of this, I'm always looking at things and saying, is there a better way? What could we learn? What could we learn to make this easier? What could we learn to avoid some pitfalls? And in some of these conversations, I'm taking all kinds of notes. And sometimes women who've been on previous councils are talking, and I'm starting to write down some of the things they're saying. Because if I got called to be on a council tomorrow, I really don't know anything about it. I haven't been involved in one. It's majorly out in uncharted territory. And I don't think right now we're really drawing from that experience and that knowledge and how to make the process better, so that maybe we're not running into and bumping up against this seems like this isn't fair, or it seems like there's not enough common consent. So that's what I really wish, to be honest with you, we were spending 8 hours talking about. Because I think if we took, there's 81 women on this call, I think if we cracked our little noggins open and we started really engaging with each other, like what sounds fair. And it can be scary when we're saying, let's get into process, let's get into more rules, right? And we start feeling like I don't want to be locked down into all of that. But if we think of the Women's Council as a bicycle, all of us started with training wheels. Okay. And training wheels are a temporary thing that could come off later. But right now, if we feel like we're having experiences that are running us into the ditch, and maybe it's that we're having to devote a whole conference to something that is unpleasant in a lot of ways, or it's causing a lot of consternation between people, I just don't think we've arrived at really the awesome sauce that I think the Lord has for us. And we're going to find that when we can listen to people who've already been on the front line. What did they learn? What do they wish that they'd done differently? How would they suggest somebody else did it? If I was going to be on a council tomorrow, I'm telling you, I would want to know what that was. And I wouldn't be afraid of asking those questions. But I also think we shouldn't put women in a position where they're afraid to tell you the areas that they think we should improve because they're afraid this mayhem is going to come out of it. Or, it's like a kid learning to make a bed and you come in the first time and the pillow's on the wrong end and you just rip everything off the bed and you're like, all right, that was terrible. And we're going to publicly tell you it was terrible. No, you just say, okay, this was really awesome how you did this, and let's improve from here. So I believe in us as women. I believe that's the Lord is he, and I don't think we need to be afraid to take our ideas to him and say, Lord, can we make it maybe a safer process for everybody by doing this? That's what Denver did in the first place when he said, can women have the priesthood? And the Lord was like, yeah, no. And then he went back and he said, okay, well, if they can't have the priesthood, well, how about they get involved and we do this sort of priesthood certificate thing? And the Lord didn't say, how dare you bring me that idea, right? He wasn't offended. He wasn't offended. He said, that's great. And here we are even having this conversation because of that.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, next we have Amy. Oh, Amy's spoken before and Amanda's spoken before, but Bethany just came up, so we'll go to Bethany first. You are muted still, Bethany. Still not getting her. Give her a few more seconds, and then we will go to Amy. All right, Amy, go ahead.
So I put this in the chat just as a suggestion, and since it's not a women's conference, maybe it can be considered in the meantime. But just that when a women's council is held, that they produce a document at the end of the process that lists all of the women's names who participated and how they know the man, and like just do the check boxes to make sure that the process was done rightly, that they just hold to themselves in the event that the man calls it into dispute and throws it before the entire general body of the congregation. So they have that in their back pocket. And then just as a people, we can decide that if this document exists and these women are willing to put their names on it, that we will accept that as valid.
Thank you, Amy. It looks like Bethany is ready. Amanda, is it okay if I go to Bethany next? Okay, thanks. Go for it, Bethany.
Okay, can you hear me? Perfect. Yeah, I was just going to throw out there that I really liked what Stephanie said in her post because one of the things that I was going to make a comment on is I was part of all of the meetings that Chris Park facilitated over Zoom to discuss the proposals, the separate, totally separate thing. And it was really interesting because the biggest gold nugget that a lot of people got out of that was there was a time where proposals were being discussed and not the original owner that had proposed it wasn't always there, and so there was a lot of like hesitancy on some things because people were like, okay, I need to just know what this person was saying, like, and when those people who wrote it were able to come on, we were able to question them directly and be like, hey, this sounds good on paper, but we want to know what was on your heart as well, like what were you thinking, what emotions were you feeling, what fears did you have when you put this proposal, even if it's scripture, like it just. And we were able to see a lot of people had fear, like Stephanie said. And the nice thing about that meeting, though, was instead of people just like people were really peaceful about it and we tried to reason through it. But like it was only after people were openly honest, like, yeah, I'm afraid that this movement's going to basically drive themselves to hell, is what somebody said who had proposed something. And I'm really afraid of that. And people were like, okay. But anyway, I just wanted to say I agree with what Stephanie said that like, you got to get to the root and heart of what people are saying for anything, whether the council members that are proposing, Kalisa, whoever it is. And then once you understand, then you know how to move forward, because otherwise it's like you're kind of in the dark a little bit. So, and it also, like Stephanie said, it can also alter how you're perceiving things. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Bethany. All right, next we'll go to Amanda.
My comments going back to the women's council thing and learning from previous women's councils. I'm really on the outside. I feel like of all of this conference stuff, I don't know hardly anybody. I didn't know about all the drama stuff. I've only been involved in a council a little bit once, and that was to reinstate the man's certificate. So I wasn't involved in the first part. And thinking about a couple of um, the admonitions or recommendations to get together and learn from past women's councils and then make decisions to go forward. Listening to everybody talk in regards to this conference and everything. It's really stood out to me listening to women who have been on councils talk about how maybe they thought a council might go before they were on one compared to their experience when they were on one, and how incredibly different it was to be on a council and how they never imagined, and how there's so much stuff that goes on that they didn't even imagine beforehand. And it just reiterated to me that there's a huge difference looking from the outside onto a council compared to if you're the one on the council. And I don't know, that just stood out to me a lot, that I don't know, that there's a lot we can learn from the people who are in the councils. And it's really difficult on the outside to get an accurate picture and view or assumption or guess of what happens on the inside of a council. And so I agree with that. It would be great to have a meeting where we get together with women from councils where we talk about what went well, what didn't go well from their point of view, because they have the most experience on all of it that can help all of us.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, Marie.
Okay. I've had the same thoughts too. Like the most valuable thing maybe that we could learn from all of this, aside from how we treat one another, is, getting better at the whole council thing. And I wanted to point out something that I didn't realize existed until someone sent it in an email. So last year there was a women's conference. Before that, we did some Zoom meetings and different things like that. I wasn't actually able to attend the actual women's conference where a document was produced of like suggestions for how to hold the women's conference. So lots of the things that Kathy had mentioned um, are actually on this document. And I think it would be an awesome thing if we had like a central website or something like that that we can put resources on for each other. And one of them would be this document, because I read through it. I think it was Karen that posted it on an email thread. And I did not, like I said, I did not realize it existed. And there were so many good nuggets on there that I thought would be helpful. And then it's been referenced a couple other times in the other Zoom meetings, just saying, basically we didn't really, we didn't really think about um, we kind of dove into the Bill of Rights and different things like that after the revelation from the Lord on remembering those things when we do hold women's councils. So I love the idea of well, and so if people don't know that there is a document that does exist, and I think everyone should be able to access that. I'm not sure the best way to do that. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thanks, Marie. I think that's a great resource. If you want to send that to like the Slack or the Remnant Sisters email thread, I bet a lot of people would like that. It looks like there are no more hands up right now, and it's almost 9. I think that's when people are wanting to wrap up. So if it's okay with everyone, I'd love to just do a few closing remarks, and then we could have a closing prayer. Does that sound good? You can nod, you can... Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Hold on. Let me close this door really quick. Okay, thanks. Husband and baby left it open. Okay, so I am so pleased with how this meeting has gone. So peaceful. I've loved it. Thank you, everyone, for all of your thoughts in the chat and out loud, and for taking your evening to be here with us. I think this has been really productive. First thing I would like to say is I had mentioned a little bit earlier that I would be willing to host another meeting. I've not wanted to put any of my own personal opinions out during this meeting because I wanted to be a neutral conductor. But I personally have felt like when I read the June 20th Revelation, it specifically says something about reason together and learn from past experiences on women's councils. And I feel like in this revelation, I don't feel like I'm content with that part being done yet. I agree with Amanda. I would like to learn from other councils more. I've never been on a council, and I think, Marie, what you were saying, great idea to share that document around. I would be willing to host another Zoom meeting so that everyone can attend if they would like to, where we could do that. So if anyone is interested, please send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat right now. Especially if you have been on a women's council and you would like a space where you can share what you've learned and not be judged for mistakes you've made, and we can make that a really safe place where we could learn from each other. Okay, so that's one thing. For this meeting, I just felt impressed to let people be heard. And I'm so grateful to have heard so many different voices and opinions here tonight. I've loved it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all for your participation, and I really hope that this unity we've felt and this fellowship with each other can continue on. I hope that I'm new to the Remnant Sisters thread. I think I got in last week or something, so maybe 2 weeks ago. But I hope that thread stays alive with much happier conversations. So that's my wish. Would anyone like to give the closing prayer?
I will, Amy. I will, Allie.
Thank you, Kathy.
Our Father in heaven, it's with gratitude in our hearts that we have felt your spirit here with us this evening, that we were able to unite and work on becoming of one heart, that we can be blessed with the power of discernment to be able to know the truth, to be able to continue to grow together and have love and understanding. Please, dear Father, bless us with the strength and the courage and to know what it is you want us to do and then to do it, no matter how hard. And sometimes maybe even kicking and screaming because we just don't think we can, but with your help, we can conquer all. We are so blessed at this time in our lives to have the covenant of Christ, to have been worthy to receive that. Continue to help us, please, to unite and grow and keep Satan out of our midst with trying to entice us and lead us away from you. Bless us all. Please bless any of our dear loved ones within this group and as an extended families, that they will be blessed. Special blessing we ask upon Connie Waterman, that she will continue to improve. We love you and we're so thankful. And we say these things so humbly. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Kathy. Such a sweet, sincere prayer. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Janet and Midge, for helping with the timing and the votes. Thank you to everyone who's shared this meeting so that people would know about it in such short notice. Thank you to Amy for setting up the Zoom and helping me get my thoughts together because I'm so scatterbrained. And I've loved this. My biggest hope in all of this was that we could show the Lord that we could be of one heart together, and seeing how peaceful this meeting has been, how open and loving people have been of each other's different opinions has really seemed like a great step in the right direction. So I thank you all for your vulnerability and your kindness, and I send you so much love. I hope you have a great night, get some good sleep leading up to this conference, and I hope to see you there.
Thank you, Allie.
I'm just going to read through some of these comments I've missed, but you're all welcome to hang out here with me. That's why I haven't ended the meeting yet.
Hey, Amy, is Amy gone? I think I still have ownership of the meeting, so
You can't leave?
I
You can give it
can't
to
leave
me.
without like kicking you out. So I'm gonna wait and hopefully maybe I'll message Amy and just see what's going on.
Oh, or you can give ownership to me if you want to. I think.
Well, I don't know.
Is that okay? Well, then that's okay. Do you know if the chat will keep the comments?
Well, that's why I want Amy to come back on so we can save it before we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this stuff. If anyone here
I
knows,
know.
please help us.
Let me grab Amy.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet, Tammy Jo. Thank you for all your help tonight.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, I didn't thank you. Oh, I didn't thank you at the end. I missed you. Thank you so much for your help, especially helping me keep the order of names to who to call on.
No worries.
Hi, Kathy. You're so cute. Thank you for that beautiful prayer at the end.
Did you see her little fairy garden? So cute.
No, I've not been on the messages today, really. Oh, someone's calling me. You know what? It's okay. I better take this and be off. But thank
You
you all
can,
for
and
being
I'll
here.
wait until Amy gets back on. I'll hold the fort down so she can
Well,
save the chat because I don't know how to do it.
I think she said if you just leave, the video will end.
It will
and
save.
should
She said
save.
that it will just
She
close.
just
Okay.
said that it will
Okay.
save. Yeah, she told me
Good.
to.
You're good to close then. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone. Thank you,
Good
Amy
night.
or Allie. You did such a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, thanks for being here and for all your support. And I adore you. I adore everyone who's still here. Thanks for hanging out at the end.
Thanks again, Allie.
Thank you.
This was great.
Thank you. Thank
Have
you.
a good
So
night,
good. Let's do
everyone.
it.
Oh, I missed someone who just spoke.
Oh, and Amy's just coming on. Hang on, I'm just gonna wait for her.